Okay, this is a lesson about the layers that you see on the program. Also, a real neat tip and trick on how to make sure your keychains are lined up. Well, first off, your screen is going to show a lot of information when you open up a file. You can see that there's a half-inch corner jig up in the upper left-hand corner of the file. Also, there's a jig to hold the actual keychain. Down here is some information, the SKU that is used with this file, what foam jig to use, that it requires an L jig. Also says what the suggested power and speed settings are on this, as well as the runtime, which is really great to know, because a number of times your customers are going to ask, well, how long is it going to take to engrave that? And more often than not, you're going to be able to say, oh, just a matter of a minute or two. But if it's a larger plaque, you can actually look at the runtime and determine, well, this one's going to take about 20 minutes. And that'll give them options whether to run and grab some lunch and come back, or if they want to look around the store, or, what have you. So what I want to talk about, though, is layers. We have a program here that allows us to put information on the screen that does not actually go to the laser. So you'll zoom in on this keychain and you'll change the name, and then you'll hit your laser button and hit run, and it's going to go to the machine. It'll beep, and all that's going to engrave is this name. Well, if you look at this screen, there's a lot of other information in here. Why isn't none of that getting engraved? Well, the thing is, that's all in the background. If you remember, perhaps back in school, your teacher used an overhead projector with transparencies. So the teacher might have a test all written out on one, and then on another one writes down the answers as you go through it. But at the end of the day, you can take that one off and then put a fresh one on for the next class. So we have the same thing going on here. We have transparencies, and if you look down the lower left-hand corner, you can see that we have 2 layers. And on layer 1 is just simply the text and the design that's going to engrave. But on layer 2, we've got all that other information. So if I click on layer 2, now I can select all this other stuff that is in the background. What's more, if I'm on layer 2 and hit the laser button, the laser is actually going to try to engrave all this. So it's very important that you stay on layer 1 and just engrave what you want to engrave. This little button down here at the bottom of your screen, it looks like a little checkbox. If you take that little check mark out of there, click on that, it will remove the transparency so that each layer will actually be opaque, and you'll only be able to see what is on the layer that you're looking at. So let me click that, and I'm on layer 1, and the only thing I can see on this whole screen is the design that we would be engraving on the keychain. That makes sense. Now if I click on layer 2, you can see I've got all this background information. A lot of people make the mistake that, well, if I'm looking at it, right? Let me turn the transparency back on. If I'm looking at it on the screen here and I see that Lori is centered on the keychain on the screen, it's going to be centered on the laser. Well, that information in the background, while we try to make that as precise as we can, it may not necessarily be accurate. So the best thing you can do to check your alignment on something is to run the red light. And in this case, a very nifty way of checking the alignment on a small keychain is to actually hop onto layer 2, select that little red outline there, hit your laser button, and you'll see that red is set to run at 20% speed, so it'll go fairly slow. It'll make 1 pass. You could adjust that to 2, 3, 4 passes if you want. And it's going to vector. You see it says vector here. Make sure it does say vector. If it doesn't say vector, it's not going to work the way I'm describing here. But when I hit run now and run the red light, that red light is going to go in a circle on the keychain. It's going to follow the contour around the outside edge of the keychain. And if that circle doesn't match the edge of the keychain, or it's a little to the right or a little to the left, then you need to just bump your text a little to the right or a little to the left to match to get your text right on. Make sure though, this is very important, before you actually run the item and engrave on it, go back to layer 1 and run it, because if you don't, it's going to actually try to engrave that circle. If you're not sure and you want to be certain that you're sending the right information, just take that little checkbox off and you'll see I'm on layer 1, so that's all that is going to go to the laser machine. Let me zoom in on it. It's just going to engrave the name and the design, which is what we would like to do. So hopefully that helps you.